Hey there, and welcome back to Tiny Travelers. If you've ever tried to swaddle a baby mid-flight or wondered how to feel supported during those foggy postpartum months, you're in for something special. Today's guest transformed a deeply personal challenge into a product that's helping parents around the world travel lighter, sleep better, and feel more confident. Welcome to Tiny Travelers, brought to you by BabyQuip, the family travel podcast where we make traveling with little ones easier, smarter, and more fun. I'm Sarah, a travel-loving mom who knows the joys and chaos of exploring with little ones. Each week, we dive into parent-tested strategies, travel hacks, and honest advice on what really works with kids. So buckle up, grab your travel planner, and let's make your next family adventure unforgettable. Pack light, travel happy. Liz Hilton is a designer, entrepreneur, and mom who used her background in fashion and 3D knitting to create Swaddelini, an award-winning seamless swaddle born from her own postpartum journey. She's also the founder of Knit It, a studio helping brands innovate with custom knitwear. Today, she's sharing the real story behind her invention, her take on modern postpartum support, and what it's really like traveling with kids while running a business. Liz, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you all about Swaddelini. I love Swaddelini. Let's talk about it. Okay, so your background is pretty unique, right? So you studied fashion in New York.
Yeah, at FIT.
Okay, and then you went to Milan to found your 3D studio. What was that?
The Politecnico di Milano. So like the professor teaching me like did not know English. And I can't, I remember walking in and seeing these knitting machines and thinking, how am I going to learn that in another language?
Did you have to learn Italian?
I did, actually. That was the easy part.
What?
The hard part was learning the knitting. It's surprisingly difficult. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I crochet and I couldn't knit because it's like too needle and too hard. But I know that's not like 3D knitting, but
yeah. Well, kind of. Yeah. It's all related. It's all related. I can't hand knit, to be honest. I cannot do that. But I can program knits. And when people are like, oh, your Swaddelini is so great. Do you make it by hand? And I'm like, I programmed it by hand.
I came up with it.
And yes, I have machines that make it and it comes out all in one piece. But I do have people who have to handle it and quality check it. And there is a lot of human touch around it, even with the automation of the machines.
I love that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, like, when did you realize your expertise would intersect with motherhood?
I mean, it wasn't until I became a mom. I had started Knit It before I was even engaged. I just knew I had a lot of energy, and I was getting projects from every corner of every industry that wanted to experiment with 3D knitting, but then they wanted to take the programs and manufacture abroad. And I thought, what if I could do the R&D? I was a very good, not just designer and programmer, but I was also a good technician. So I just bought my own machine, and it was crazy. It was a very old machine. It was because that was all I could afford. And I even had to take out a loan for that and had to take out one of those weird like microfinance loans for people who don't have money and like because I was 25. Like,
where does one get one of those loans? Because I don't have any money either.
Yeah, it was through Grow, Grand Rapids Opportunities for Women. So shout out to them who loaned me my first $20,000.
Thanks,
that got me my first machine. I also took advantage of some really affordable housing. So I had this cute brick and mortar storefront where I put my machines in my studio, but I lived in like 300 square feet in the back. And that was underneath some subsidized housing. So I saw like lots of interesting characters as my neighbors, which was really cool. It was a great way to start out, though. It was really great.
So you started in 3D knitting after kind of studying fashion and probably textiles.
Yeah. And then I got into office furniture, actually, was where.
Office furniture is a pretty far removed from anything having to do with babies. Babies don't work in an office yet.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get that program going, but they don't really let kids work in offices.
Yep. Yeah, they don't. I mean, I think
there's like laws and stuff.
There's laws and stuff. I wish that the government would give tax breaks to companies to have in corporate daycare facilities. That would be a huge help.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, I actually did. I did allow. So I know you're like, oh, companies don't allow babies, but when Swaddelini, like we're fast forwarding a bit, but when Swaddelini took off, I did have an employee who bring her baby to work, and so because she still wanted to breastfeed, and like it was the job she had with me that enabled her to buy a house with her husband and not have to do daycare. She was scared to death of daycare. She didn't want to do that. She didn't want to stop breastfeeding. And because I allowed her to bring her baby to work every day for like 6 or 8 months, it made it possible.
That's so great. And you know that a baby geared company is really for the babies.
Well, I put my money where my mouth is on that.
Right. When they have like the great leave policy, and then that you can bring in the babies, and then you can take time off for.
I mean, things are different now because like I painted that picture of when I was in Grand Rapids, but then I reached a point like pre-Swaddelini. It was after I invented it, before it took off. I didn't have enough money to pay the rent there. So I had been married, had a kid. So I moved my studio into my garage. And then eventually it flourished. And now we're in a 10,000 square foot facility. And I just had a woman this week come back from her maternity leave. She just came back yesterday, actually. And she took 16 weeks off, partial pay. So
I love that. Yeah. I mean, honestly,
we weren't able to do 100%, but like the government didn't help me at all because I only have 10 employees. So I got no help, which was fine. I still did the absolute. I did what
you did the most that you could.
I did the most that I could. But yeah, 16 weeks I think it's better than nothing. And it's definitely better than any other small business that.
Yeah, it's better than a lot of people get ever. So, I mean, good job to you.
Thank you.
We've been talking a lot about Swaddelini, but I'm not sure that everybody knows what a Swaddelini is. So tell us how that came about.
Yes. So, like when I had my baby my first baby in August of 2017, I had knitted in that little place where I used to live, and I had 2 apprentices learning the trade. And I took literally 10 days for my maternity leave, which was god awful. That was so bad. But in my postpartum haze, I realized that my little baby, it was only sleeping like 20-minute increments because I could tell he felt trapped when I'd swaddle him, and then he'd break free. And then I'm scared, paranoid new mom, like suffocation hazard with all the fabric.
Totally.
And I tried the sleep sacks, but then that would like make him more angry. And you hear a lot on the internet, moms are like, oh, I tried swaddling. My baby hated it. And that's why I like to say that, well, this is the swaddle for babies who don't like swaddles because it breaks all the rules. I love saying this. Swaddelini breaks all the rules of conventional swaddling because yes, it gives them a hug, but it also allows them the freedom to move and stretch and wiggle. So babies have that moro reflex, that feeling of falling. They can still experience that in the Swaddelini. The difference is they're able to self-soothe themselves back to sleep because it's giving them that gentle hug. And you can only achieve this with 3D knitting. And then the other added benefits that come with that is it's seamless. So it's great for the sensory sensitive. And there are no closure systems. So no snaps, no Velcro.
Oh my gosh. And if you are a new mom or have ever had a new baby around you, you know that the snaps, the zips, the getting the closure right, the Velcro, all that kind of stuff, it can be so stressful as a mom because you're like, hello, stop moving. I need to.
Yeah, they do move a lot. And when you do diaper changes too, sometimes their curious little hands like to get in their poop. So I actually love doing diaper changes and when a baby is wearing a Swaddelini because you can come up from the bottom and their hands are still tucked in the sides so they can't really get into it.
Nice try, baby.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it was actually, but the moment I knew it worked. So I had the idea that, okay, well, my baby has this problem. He feels trapped in swaddles. He feels uncomfortable. He needs to be hugged, but be able to move. So I had the idea of a tube with pinches inside the tube. So like almost 3 tubes in one tube. And then I knit it. I came home and I think my baby was like just a few weeks old. I put it on him for at nighttime. We went to bed, my husband and I, and we woke up. My husband and I woke up the next morning and there was my little baby sleeping there peacefully. He had slept the entire night, which had not happened since we got home from the hospital. And in that moment, my husband grabs my arm and he's like, Liz, you're going to sell 1 million of these.
Oh my God.
You know, and in that moment I was like, oh no, this is going to be a lot of work. But
you're like, what have I done?
R&D girly. So I spent a year before I ever sold one and I got all the safety tests done. And there were no safety tests required for it because it's America, but, and there were no closure systems, but I worked, I know how important safety is. And so for my peace of mind, I researched all of the best safety tests, the suffocation hazard test, the design hazard test, CFR 1610, TOG, and we got all of that done. And before we ever made $1. And then I launched it and I refined it. So like the Swaddelini product is a great representation of moms from all over the world coming together and helping me iterate and make it better and better.
Interesting. Can you tell me more about that? More like you've had input from like different cultures, different places on how they sleep, how babies are taken care of kind of in that first.
I started with I tried a Kickstarter and it wasn't funded, but it did give me like 30 people who gave to it, but you know, they got their money back because it didn't work out. Kickstarter gave me access to people from all over the world. And even though my Kickstarter wasn't funded, I gave everybody a free swaddle for just, you know, believing in it. Yeah. And then I asked for their feedback. And so that really helped. I went over anyone I knew who knew someone who was having a baby. I would go to their home and swaddle with them. And it was actually through one of these visits, I learned the best way to put on the Swaddelini. I was putting it on in some weird way. And then someone was watching me do it and was like, oh, that seems difficult. I just do it this way. It just goes on like a sock. And I'm like, oh, so much better.
Okay. How come I didn't think about that?
So it was great. And then in the beginning, it didn't have a diaper flap, but I had many moms say that would be the piece de la résistance. And it took weeks to program it, but
oh my gosh.
I did it. And it's great.
I would love to just come see the programming of all this knit stuff. Yeah. I bet that's
it wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't.
No, I'm sure it wouldn't, but I'd love to see it anyways.
It would be cool. If you're ever in West Michigan, you should come over.
Okay, perfect. I'm in West Michigan all the time. Not really.
Oh.
No, I'm on the West Coast. So
yeah,
I'm hanging out in the sunshine most of the time. What was your postpartum kind of recovery like after having the Swaddelini and getting more sleep?
I had a very rough postpartum because I was trying to run a very unsuccessful business and I had a baby. And your first going from no kids to one kid is such a violent transition.
Oh my gosh.
I was the first to do it in my friend group.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so bad. I remember going into the doctor like 10 days postpartum thinking like, there's gotta be something wrong. It's so painful. I remember literally pooping standing up. Like I had to, I'd put down one of those like doggy pads and poop standing up. Like, because it was,
there's so many things that they don't tell you about having a baby that once you have the baby, you're like, what? Okay. They didn't tell me that part.
I know.
And then there's
I know,
just things
and then
that
you
keep
like tell
happening.
all of your friends because you want to save them from the
Mhm.
agony of pooping sitting down and like, hey, I have a hack for this. Just poop in the shower standing up. And then they're
You're
like,
like,
you're
"Just go poop in the
crazy. I
yard.
had a
It's
C-section.
fine."
I was fine. I'm like, why did I open up like this?
Why am I telling you about this?
But yeah, it was really, really bad. I also, my husband was working 24/7. I remember the day we got back from the hospital. He had gone to work and he didn't come back until 22 hours later. He was an executive at an automotive company, Magna. Hate that company, Magna mirrors. It's so horrible. Calling them out. Ran by the Antichrist. Anyway, so he comes back and I'm screaming at him because like, why did you leave me alone for
Oh my
22
gosh.
hours?
Right.
And he was like, I took 4 days off for the birth. I'm like, 2 of those were a Saturday and a Sunday. And so I have zero tolerance for bullshit. So
Right.
this period did not last long for my husband. He got an ultimatum of either quit that job or he gets no more babies.
Right.
And he's a really good dad and he has his priorities straight and he's a good husband and he listens to me. And so he did quit that job. He had spent he's older than me. He spent 25 years building a career, like almost 15 years building a career at that company. And he threw it all away because I said, fuck no. You need a job.
He was like, I love Liz and her babies too much.
Yeah. So it's really, I love sharing the story because so many women have struggles like I had with my husband postpartum and they don't do anything about it. And then 5 years later, they get a divorce. And
they're resentful. They just hold that in.
Yeah.
And hold on to the resentment.
So I'm very fortunate that I just know who I am and I know what I want. And I didn't take I held no prisoners.
Right.
And I'm so proud of myself for that.
You should be.
Because now
I mean, honestly, it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's hard
and
with
it's really
all the
hard.
help in the world.
In the transition, my husband had to go from like being boss guy to having several bosses above him at a company that was more family friendly.
Yeah.
And making a third of the money he used to make. And that is a lot to ask of a man who has his entire identity wrapped up in what he does. But the thing is, while you're going through matrescence, your husband is going through putrescence. And his identity is being reshaped and reformed and in a great way. And so now my husband's identity is invested in being a great husband and a great father before being a highly competent and capable individual.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is important because usually that's a mom's first priority too. And we don't ask the same of dads very often. But I do see that more now that moms or partners or whatever are really asking their partner to be a partner and not just kind of like the backup or,
Well, and in every culture, there is so much emphasis on helping the mother in her first 40 days. And so like for me, I didn't get that. I didn't get the love and attention from my husband in my first 40 days with our first. I got it for baby 2 and baby 3 and baby 4 because I was very clear about what I needed. But I still struggled because when you are newly postpartum, there's something happening in your brain where you are storing core memories. I don't know the medical term for it, but I've heard, like, my friend is a midwife. She's talked about it. Like you're storing memories you're going to have for the rest of your life when you are in your days and weeks postpartum. And so I had to do a lot of inner work to let go of the resentment I held against my husband during that time. And so, but it's totally possible to heal, but I just had to change my narrative I had running in my brain so that I could enjoy the support that he delivered in my subsequent postpartums.
Exactly. And he stepped up and he did it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And now you have 4 kids. So
we have 4 kids. And
it must have worked somehow.
I wanted to stop at 2, but he said he really wanted more. And like, I prayed about it. I read a book, Selfish Reasons to Have More Kids. And it was written by an economist. I liked it. And I was like, you know what? he is a really, really good dad and more to the point, a great husband. So yes, it would be socially irresponsible not to procreate with you. So he got his 4 kids.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Even if you're only having one kid with a guy, like, and you may only get one postpartum, like he needs to know that this is the time where you need to give her a lot of grace and a lot.
You have to talk about postpartum, pre-postpartum.
Yeah,
you can't bring it up the day that you get home from the hospital, though. You can't be like, okay, so let's try to plan out what it's going to be like now. You have to have a plan before you go in. And I think that's something that people don't really, you plan for the birth, you plan for the...
It's not sexy. It's not sexy and fun. Like it's sexy and fun to talk about like the gory details of birth and having your and the cute little baby clothes. But postpartum is boring. Postpartum is a little depressing.
Painful.
You don't want to think about it. You don't want to talk about it. And then, of course, it also requires the people in your life getting off their butts and doing something for you. Now, you're not going to have anyone in your life come to your aid and help you in your postpartum if you have not been that person reaching out and helping people. Okay. Cause like if everyone's like, oh, where's the village? I mean, the village is there.
But are you part of the village?
But are you a villager? Yeah. Everybody wants a village. No one wants to be a villager.
Hey, we're taking a quick break to share something special from one of our brand partners. We only work with brands we truly believe in, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. When was the last time you got the whole family in front of the camera without someone stuck behind the lens? At JCPenney Portraits by Lifetouch, professional photographers make it easy to capture real smiles, real connections, and the moments that matter the most. Whether it's your toddler's grin or a 3-generation group hug, now's the perfect time to get everyone together. Book your session today at jcpenneyportraits.com because these days won't last forever, but the photos can.
So I love where this conversation is going because I feel very strongly about talking about postpartum. It's so much so that I actually am in the process of making a documentary, and I'm not actually sure about a title. We'll call it Project Chip.
Project Chip. Got it.
Health and postpartum. I'm not quite sure what the title's going to be yet, but I don't know if you know Han Oh. Do you know Han Oh from the first 40 days? The first 40 days is the essential art of nourishing the new mother, and it's a Chinese American woman who talks about all the amazing ancient Chinese traditions around supporting.
I've seen a couple of, like videos and kind of things like on the ancient Chinese postpartum recovery for the mom in the first 40 days. And it's so amazing and intense and like very food focused and or like nourishing focused.
Food focused. Like you have to wear hats and mittens and don't keep cold, stay inside, don't shower. I mean, it gets a little extreme, but this book is mostly like recipes and also just great ideas. Like instead of a baby shower, have like a blessing way or a nesting party where women just come together to celebrate your journey into motherhood instead of being so focused on the baby. And because everyone wants to think about the baby, but we really need to be thinking about the mom.
It is so interesting because I think once you have your first baby, like you said, when you go from being no babies to the first baby, it's a very shocking introduction into you are no longer the center of even your own universe. You are not the center of anybody's universe anymore. It's all about that baby and all about, taking care of that baby and loving on that baby and things like that. And then you realize that everybody just kind of forgets about the mom. They're like, oh, thanks for the baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so bad in America that there are mothers and mother-in-laws all over the place walking into hospital rooms after a woman's given birth and going right to the baby and not saying anything to the mom.
Right.
There's a special circle in hell for the people who do that.
It is hard.
We cannot prioritize the baby over the mom because the mother's mental health is the baby's mental health.
I mean, but we don't need to get so serious on the mental health thing, but it is true because if you're not taking care of your mental health when you have a little baby, things can go awry real fast.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I actually got to a point after my first, and it was like 6 months later, but like it was catching up to me, because very often, like when you're in a survival mode, you keep it together until you get just a little bit of space to let it out. And then
all of a sudden you just crumble.
Yeah. I actually flipped out at a daycare worker. And she said, if I behaved like that again, I would lose the privilege of putting my son in that daycare. And it was one of those things that was so out of character. I told my doctor and she was like, I think we need some Zoloft. And I just love saying this, but 50 milligrams of Zoloft never hurt anybody. Nope. And it was such a blessing for me. And then I also went to therapy and I learned this word I learned what I had because it wasn't PPD. It was postpartum emotional distress.
Oh,
I wasn't having any scary thoughts. I didn't want to hurt myself or my baby. I wanted to hurt everybody else around me.
Oh my gosh. Tell me about it.
It was just emotional distress brought on by the postpartum experience. And as soon as I had a name for it, my other postpartums were so much better. I had a name. I also planned them much better. I made sure my parents had moved here before I even conceived another child. Right. I made sure my husband had quit his job before I conceived another. and then to have a third baby, I made sure that I had a more robust childcare plan. I made sure that we had like some cleaning help, some like that just little things. And which, by the way, you can get those kind of services very, very cheap or free. There's an organization here in West Michigan called Moms Bloom, and I volunteer for it, where volunteers are paired with families who have just had a baby, and you go there for a few hours a week, and you do the laundry, you do dishes, you hang out with the older kid. And then I think there's another one in Arizona called Many Mothers. So that there's probably some community postpartum doula support thing, or there's probably some way for you to get involved in your community if you're passionate about this.
Yeah. And I think honestly that's important because the more we talk about it, the more people know, the more that they can kind of recognize what's going on in their own life and, just put a name to it, like you said, and not feel so alone, honestly, because I mean, when I was postpartum, I felt so alone by myself.
Yeah.
You're with this new baby. You don't even know this baby. This baby doesn't know you very well. And you both are just trying to, survive. And you're thinking, there's got to be something wrong with me because am I doing this right? I don't think I am.
We're supposed to have more support in the home. You're not supposed to be cooking dinners postpartum. You're not supposed to be cleaning. You're just supposed to be taking care of the baby. And
and yourself.
And people don't know how to reach out. They'll say, "Oh, if you need anything, let me know."
Just let me know, and nobody's going to let you know.
So a hack for that is you have a list on your door, and somebody has to complete the items on that list before they get to hold your baby.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to say, if you want to see me, then you're going to have to do these chores. Just kidding.
You're going to give that list to your kids?
Yeah. Oh, that's an even better idea. Oh my gosh.
That's my bedroom door. I reward my kids. I have 4 kids. So like, all right, you want to spend one-on-one time with mommy. You better be doing mommy's chores. You know?
Right. Exactly. We're going to be doing chores during our one-on-one time.
I know. But when they're babies, they can't unload the dishwasher. So
no, they can't. Those freeloaders. My God. I'm like, hello, you're 6 months old. What are you doing? There's, so many different myths about postpartum, right? And like we've been talking about, cultures and different parts of the world take postpartum differently. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you've encountered about postpartum, do you think?
It's not so much a misconception. It's just that it is forgotten and missed in our American society. So we, it just, like my poor husband, like nobody gave him the script on how he should have behaved, you know? Cause like, and then like none of his friends told him how intense this period would be. I'm sure his father was not
I'm sure
present in his mom's postpartum. So like he was not going to be very helpful. So yeah. And I think especially for women like me, I'm very self-sufficient. I can handle things myself. And so it's very hard to tell what I need until I don't need it anymore.
Right.
And so it's really hard, I think, on couples who have just gotten married and then boom, have a baby. Like it happened for me and my husband. Like you really have to know someone to know what they need. But the bare minimum is food. And that's why, like, honestly, if you're pregnant out there, you're listening to this, I don't care if you're not religious, join a church. Join a church just for the food train. Organize. Here, you say what you want about organized religion, but you walk in a church and you're like, I'd like to be a member. They want to know your due date. They get you a shower. They get you meal trains. And like, that's honestly, it's a great benefit. Like, and they should be doing that. Like,
well, it's one way to get a village, right? If you don't have one, is to join some sort of local village, which sometimes
and honestly, churches are really good with that. So I'm not going to say anything religious on here.
It's totally true. I did MOPS for a while, and I'm not a religious person, but because it was mothers of preschoolers and it was kind of like a religious based group, it was at a church. But they're also, I mean, that's just like another support system for you.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
You just have to look outside of the box sometimes for support, because it's not always going to come from grandma, grandpa. It's not always going to come from your best gal friend. It's not going to come from your spouse necessarily. So sometimes you just have to reach out and find.
And I mean, there's tons of support stuff that is just simply not free. And I mean, people talk a lot about postpartum doula support. But my personal experience with that is, like, you know, I got to a point where I could afford it, and I love the idea of it. But for me, it's just, and for a lot of women, it's like, I have decision fatigue. I don't want to have to delegate to somebody in my home what to do. And there's a few postpartum doulas out there who are extremely good and they know what they're doing. But I'd say 90% don't know what they're doing. So
interesting.
I put your money elsewhere. I do like the postnatal retreat centers. I think that's a great idea. So and that's why in my documentary, I follow one woman's journey to preparing for her second postpartum, doing it differently. She's Chinese American as well. And then we put her up at the postnatal retreat center in San Francisco. And then we see her again in 40 days and we document, you know, what worked. And what worked was really having a come to Jesus moment, or maybe not. It's a bad turn of phrase. He's Jewish.
I think he was a real historical figure.
What we learned from that was that even though she had postpartum doula support, she had postnatal retreat center support. She had a nesting party and had her friends bring her toddler activity kits for her older kid and meals. Even though all that, the most important stuff was her friends reaching out, was her reaching out to her friends and having conversation, going out with her baby and having lunch with her girls, having her husband really step it up in a big monumental way. That's what made the biggest impact.
Yeah. It's all about the village. It's really about the village.
Oh, what was your original question? Because I don't think I answered it.
I don't even remember. What was my original question?
It was a good one. I don't think I answered it.
Oh, misconceptions about postpartum.
Misconceptions. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like we've talked about a lot of misconceptions.
I mean, there's a misconception that like, women can just like get back into shape. I'm currently
Nope.
18 months postpartum, and I'm still losing I did have 4 babies. So it's going to take me a while. I just stopped breastfeeding. I gain weight breastfeeding. So I just stopped.
Me too.
I think it's going to take me another year, to be honest. I'm just trying to be honest with myself. It's going to take me a year, another year.
And
so
honestly,
like 3 years.
What's the pressure? Who cares? What's the pressure? I mean, as long as you're taking care of yourself and you're healthy and, the baby's
I know,
healthy,
but you still have that desire. Like I
look
at
of course.
Like, oh God.
But I mean, I'm just trying to say, like, to you, who cares?
Yeah.
Of course, when it was me postpartum, I was like, gotta get back into those jeans. But, it's who cares, honestly? We should all give ourselves a little bit more grace.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of grace, one thing I also did when I was very newly postpartum with my first that was a little bit dumb. I traveled for business when I was 6 weeks postpartum. I was still bleeding. I did a big trip from Midwest to California to a trade show. And I did I left my baby with my sister. She lived out there at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left him in like San Jose, Orange County area, and then took a train to like LA, did the conference, and then came back like the next day. And my sister looks back on that and she's like, I cannot believe you trusted me and my husband with your baby. We didn't even know what we were doing. And I was
well, the funny thing is I didn't know what I was doing either. So
exactly.
We're both in the same boat. It's totally fine.
I mean, it was a good trip. I made good connections, but I'm like, I don't think that was a good idea. And then 2 weeks later, I did another business trip with my baby. And so I'm a pro with traveling with babies.
Mm-hmm.
And actually I've had some doctors recommend my swaddle to babies going on international flights, especially flights from like here to Dubai or something like that, because they have those fold out bassinets so babies can sleep safely on their back. And the Swaddelini helps just calm. It helps keep babies calm. So it is a very useful tool on flights.
What are some other tips, since you're so good with traveling with kids? What are some other tips that you have for traveling with babies or children?
I'm really comfortable passing my baby off to other people. And I really enjoyed their reactions. Like one time I just needed to like fold the stroller and I just picked my baby up and I said to the young man sitting behind me, hey, can you, because I also traveled a lot with babies by myself to like do the baby shows for Swaddelini with Prego Expo and stuff. And I gave him to one guy. He literally held the baby out in front of him, stiff-armed, like scared to death. And I just,
you're like, you're part of the village now.
Like, you're not going to drop him. Like he was too scared to drop him. And then I was done and I took him back and he was so relieved.
Oh, and I'm sure that's a story that he probably tells everybody still. He's like, this crazy lady at the airport made me hold her baby and it was crazy and I didn't know anything about babies.
I know. It's so funny. It's so funny. But what other ones? I mean, the Up a Baby stroller was amazing. It's lasted 7 years. It's on its last, like I need to throw that thing. I don't even think I can donate it at this point. It's gotten so much use. Yeah.
I do love an Up a Baby Vista. It's very modular. You can turn it into a stroller for however many kids you have. They have a travel bag that you can put
I can put one kid in the stroller and then one of my kids can almost fit underneath it in the bag, which you're not supposed to do that. And then I have the flappy thing and then like 2 kids can like stand on that.
Oh, on the rider board? Yep.
Yeah, I can fit all 4 of them still on that thing.
That's probably why that thing is taking a beating, Liz.
Oh, it's gotten a beating. I had to get the wagon, the 4-seater. I had to get the 4-seater wagon. Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big wagon fan myself. When you traveled with your babies for the first time, or maybe, like older babies or toddlers or whatever the case is, what surprised you the most about that experience?
What surprised me? I mean, I knew that it was going to be difficult, but like I do mentally prepare for it. So I don't think anything surprised me, but what I think might deter people from traveling with their babies is how difficult, like what to do when your baby cries. And I think for that, I would say you just have to have the tools in your toolbox, you know?
Right.
If you've got a little baby who can be swaddled, awesome. You know, if you are in a long flight where they have a bassinet, that's the best thing. Actually, that is one tip. I always traveled with a bassinet, and I don't see parents who travel with small babies. I don't see parents who travel with small babies having a bassinet stroller. I see these car seat strollers. So I'm like, that's the worst thing you could do, because then they're falling asleep. You want them to be lying on their back, stretching out, kicking, having fun in the bassinet when you're about the airport. Then once you get on the plane, they can sleep. And if they're not sleeping, you can massage their feet. Infant massage is a big thing. And I sell the best infant massage book. It's called 101 Baby Hacks, written by my friend Alina Furman, who's the inventor of the Call Me Baby Wand, which I've also used on flights. But she actually invited myself over her house. She had never met me. It was her birthday. And I was just like, we should make TikToks together. And that's how I met her. But she has a great following on Instagram. She's got like 500,000 followers on Instagram and TikTok. And she posts amazing content on just how to calm your baby through massage. She loves to say, you know, the power to calm your baby is in your hands. So I think that is an underrated tool.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. I definitely know about baby massage. I had a girlfriend when my first was very young go through actually a baby massage program, and she used my baby as her little guinea pig, and he really loved it. So I never thought to massage the baby on the plane, though. That's a good idea. And honestly, I bet that works for older kids too, because imagine how you would feel if you got a massage on a plane. I would feel a lot better. So I'm sure older kids too can benefit from the power of touch or calming, massage or something like that. So that's really good tip.
I also sell adult swaddles that come in size small for kids.
Oh.
And it uses the same science of the sensory input to activate the vagus nerve and increase proprioception and just calm the central nervous system.
Awesome. I'm going to get a adult swaddle for myself.
Yeah, next time you fly, sleep like a baby in a Swaddelini.
Gosh, everybody's going to be like, look at that mummy on the plane.
You know what?
She's all wrapped up.
I'm trying to normalize it. I have a big ad at the GR airport right now that has me in a Swaddelini on a plane. I was on my way back from a baby show with my baby by myself when I took that shot that is in the airport.
Oh my gosh.
I'll send you a picture.
Please do. I cannot wait to see that. Yeah. That is hilarious.
But how I made it. So I'm on the flight with my 1-year-old baby, or I think she was like 9 months at the time. And in air, I go up to this flight attendant, Chris, and I'm like, hey, can I bother you to snap a picture of me in first class after everybody deplanes? And he's like, okay. So everyone deplanes, and I hand Chris my baby and my phone, and he takes a picture and some video, and it was
like, this lady's handing her baby off again.
Yeah, to random people who did, and then as a thank you, I was like, "Thank you so much, Chris." I tried to give the flight attendant like a free body compression sock, free adult swaddle, and he's like, he's this like big black dude. He's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. And I was like,
I'll
okay,
hold your baby,
fine.
But I'm not putting on an adult swaddle.
Yeah. But then the pilot was like, hey, is this good for people with autism? And I'm like, yes, that's actually what inspired me to do it, were customers who had autism. And he's like, my daughter would love this. And I was like, here you go. So I ended up.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. Liz, you're a nice person. I can tell.
I try. I fake it till you make it. Like,
amen, sister. Amen. Okay, so you have a pretty busy business. You've had businesses that since you've had kids, basically.
Yeah.
How do you personally balance being present with your kids while running a company, maybe traveling, for business, maybe with or without the kids, but it's always hard to balance that kind of
Yeah, I am trying
pressure.
to travel less. The documentary was hard because I had to travel 3 times away for days at a time. And so, yeah, but I'm trying to travel less, but it's kind of a necessary evil because I have to do the baby shows and I am signed up for one and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But as far as balance, tip on how to balance. I'm not always great at this because, you know, the success of my business depends on me posting content.
Right.
But when I just leave my phone in the other room or sometimes in my car so that I'm away from it, that's way better at connecting with my kids. Also, I find myself like I used to ask my kids, okay, hey, do you want to go for a walk outside? I don't ask anymore. Because then they'll just say, no, I just want to. And you know, I'm anti-screen time, so that's never an issue. But I'll just take the initiative of, okay, well, we're going for a walk. Too bad. And just like, we'll go for a walk. And after a minute of screaming, they will calm down and be good with going for a walk.
Yeah. I mean, fresh air does everybody some good.
Yeah. So I just, that's one way that has really helped me connect with my kids is just taking charge in what we're doing. And then that really helps make space for that. And then like this week, I just have my 2 youngest because my husband's on a fishing trip with the older 2. And it's nice to have that space at nighttime where I get one-on-one time to like talk. So
I love
that's
that.
amazing.
Yeah. You have to kind of, I mean, for me, sometimes I even have to like schedule stuff. Just put it in my calendar. Like, you're not doing work right now. You're doing family stuff. And then, you know, that's like a commitment that I've made on my calendar. So I'm sticking to it. You know, I'm not going to go back to emails and all that kind of stuff.
One-on-one time is important to me. Like so like for Mother's Day, my tradition is I have chunks of my day for each kid. And we do something like it could be just bike riding to a coffee shop. And that's a big deal when you have 4 kids to be able to take 2 hours on a Saturday to just spend with one kid is a big deal. So I prioritize that.
Yeah. That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we wrap up, I think a lot of new moms hopefully are listening to this podcast for encouragement to travel and, you know, spending time with their kids and that sort of thing. What would you tell a new mom who's maybe feeling overwhelmed about traveling with their baby to make them feel better?
Radical ease. So, the reason I say radical ease is because, the idea of traveling with kids is extremely daunting. But if you just break it down, like, okay, what do I actually need? Like, I just need some diapers, some wipes, some of that. Because, like, I don't want to take my kids to the grocery store, okay? More or less to a baby show, right? I try to do things with radical ease. I pack really light, and breastfeeding is pretty key for me. I don't breastfeed anymore. So right now, would I travel with my kids? Nah. I'm just scared to travel with all 4. Maybe you asked the wrong person, but when I was breastfeeding, I could do anything with that kid.
It was easy,
right? Because I could just. I had the magic solution, but so I guess breastfeeding is a tip.
Well, I think you did say pack light, and I am definitely a proponent of packing light because you only need to bring the essentials. You can always rent everything that you need when you get to your destination from BabyQuip or, you know, whatever. So you don't need to bring your full house in order to travel comfortably with a baby.
You know, you asked me before what surprised me about traveling. What I do find surprising is there aren't a lot of haters. Like people aren't looking at you, judging you for traveling with your kids. Like that is not happening. I mean, or I guess if it is, I'm certainly not noticing it.
Right.
So that you can, don't be afraid about what other people think.
No.
And that goes for everything in life. But
I mean, literally everything, because most people don't care about
but
you.
a lot of times, sometimes I'm like, you know what? We're going to do this with radical ease. We're going to just pack a diaper bag and go see that movie, or go to the friend's place, or go to the park. And it's those little things. I know it sounds like it's small. You don't have to get on a plane, but just sometimes traveling from your home to the park is a big, big deal. And just say, okay, I'm going to do this with radical ease. And if we forget something, that's fine.
Exactly.
We're going to do it.
You usually get it wherever you're going if you really need it. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Liz, this has been so good. Where can our listeners find you, find Swaddelini, find everything about you if they need to?
So Swaddelini is SWADDELINI, at Swaddelini on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Lemon8. I even post on like other things too, like just to keep relevant. So I post on those platforms every day. Cute video of babies being swaddled. And every now and then you'll see me or my husband in a swaddle too.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. Awesome. Liz, thank you so much for joining us and for reminding us that support isn't a luxury in motherhood, it's essential. To everyone listening, if this conversation gave you even one more ounce of confidence to get out there with your little one, send it to a mom friend, a fellow founder, or a parent who just needs to hear you've got this. And remember, if you're traveling soon and don't want to pack your entire house, you can rent exactly what you need when you arrive. Think premium strollers like the Up a Baby Vista, cribs, high chairs, and more, all clean, safe, and stress-saving. Use code TINYTRAVELERS at checkout to save $20 off a $100 rental with BabyQuip. You'll find all the links in the show notes, including where to follow Liz and learn more about Swaddelini and Knit It. Until next time, pack light, trust yourself, and enjoy the journey. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tiny Travelers. I hope today's episode gave you the inspiration and practical tips to make your next family adventure easier, stress-free, and more fun. If you loved today's episode, head over to the show notes for promo codes and exclusive resources to help you plan unforgettable trips with your little ones. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Happy travels, and I'll see you next time.